everybody. So yesterday we talked about sentences that end with a period, and remember you learned that awesome cool new word, declarative. Remember, declarative sentences are sentences that end with periods. So today we're going to talk about a different kind of sentence, and that is a sentence that ends with a question mark. So whenever you have a sentence that ends with a question mark, it ends with a question mark because you just asked a question. Sentences that end with question marks are called interrogative sentences. So that's another long word. Isn't that exciting to learn new, cool, long words? Okay, so this word is interrogative. Say that slowly. Interrogative. An interrogative sentence is a sentence that ends with a question mark because the sentence is asking a question. So the word interrogative is really long. If you kind of break down interrogative, it kind of has some of the same letters and sounds as the word interrogate. That's a long word too. Interrogate is what happens when someone asks a lot of questions. So like if you had to be asked a lot of questions maybe about something you saw that happened, you would be interrogated, okay? So interrogate is when you ask a lot of questions. That's a cool big word too. So that's kind of where the word interrogative comes from, because interrogative means questions, okay? So it's a question sentence if it's an interrogative sentence. So let's talk about some interrogative sentences together. So our chart today says, some sentences end with a question mark. Now this sentence here does not end with a question mark because this sentence is just telling you something. Some sentences end with a question mark. It's just telling, it's not asking. I did draw some question marks here so that you remember what they look like. And remember, a sentence that ends with a question mark is called an interrogative I'm going to run out of the room for sentence. Okay, so an interrogative sentence is a sentence that ends with a question mark. So let's write a few interrogative sentences together. My sentences today are going to be about school, I think. So let's see. Questions about school. How about, who is your teacher? That's a question. Okay, so who is your teacher? I'm running out of room. Okay, and my sentence ends with a question mark because this is a question. Who is your teacher? Okay, question sentences are always going to end, or are usually going to start with words like who, what, when, where, why, how. Okay, those are sentences that begin with question words or is. Okay, so who is your teacher? That's asking you something, so it needs a question mark. If it said, my teacher is Miss Clark, that's telling, so it would end with a period. So a question mark sentence, an interrogative sentence, is when you're being asked a question. A sentence that needs a period is when you are just telling something. All right, so who is your teacher? That's an interrogative sentence. Let's think of another one about school. When is lunch? That's not telling anything, that's asking. When is lunch? So we need a capital W. When is lunch? Lunch. Oh, I remember that digraph. C-H. When is lunch? Question mark. This is a question because it's asking, when is lunch? If it was telling, it may say like, lunch is at 11 o'clock. That would need a period at the end if the sentence was, lunch is at 11 o'clock. But it's asking, it's not telling, it's saying, when is lunch? So it needs a question mark. Another question about school. How about what? Or no, Who is in our class? That's a question. Who is in our class? All right, who is in our class? That's asking a question, so it needs a question mark at the end. If it was saying like, Ronald is in our class, that's a telling sentence, so it would need a period. But this is saying who is in our class, so we need to end it with a question mark. Whenever you read sentences that end with a question mark, your voice should sound a little bit different. It kind of goes up at the end. So, who is your teacher? When is lunch? Who is in our class? Your voice sounds a little bit different when you read question sentences. When you're reading sentences that end with a period, your voice usually stays the same. My name is Mrs. Clark. I am a teacher. I like ice cream. So it stays the same level. When you ask a question, your voice changes. Who is your teacher? When is lunch? Who is in our class? So you have to change your voice and use different inflections. All right. Remember, when a sentence ends with a question mark, it is called an interrogative sentence. Okay? Question sentences or question marks are needed when a sentence is asking a question. So for your assignment today, you're going to write 3 interrogative sentences about school. See if you can think of some different sentences than the ones I used. So in your writing journal, write 3 question sentences, sentences that ask a question and need a question mark at the end that are about school. Alrighty, and make sure you submit those so we can check them together.